I imagine American presidents will go and honor D-Day and be at the cemetery, but they won't always get to give the speech in front of those folks, some of whom fought.
They're almost all gone.
Yeah.
80 years ago today, 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds, some 17 and 16-year-olds stormed the beaches of Normandy. Thousands died, and they saved the world. They stood up for freedom and against tyranny, and reflecting on that now is so important, especially for the younger generation that sometimes forgets. I think about my grandfather, who served 3 years in the South Pacific. They stood up to fight tyranny. I think it's important to remember they didn't do it alone. There were thousands of Canadians with them. There were thousands of English with them. The French were there, and it was an alliance. And we have an alliance again today, and I think that was an important part of the message of D-Day. We are again aligned against tyranny, and we had our greatest generation. Ukraine now has theirs. The greatest Ukrainian generation is on the front lines, fighting for freedom, defending democracy, and fighting against tyranny. And we have to stand with them now, because every generation has a test. That was their great fight, and this one may be ours.
Well, the interesting thing about tying it to Ukraine is that Ukraine, I mean, I live with that idea of a tug of war. Ukraine encapsulates the tug of war. The vast majority of Americans stand with Ukraine in their fight against a shared enemy in Vladimir Putin, but not a large swath of Trump's base.
And they're out of touch, and they're wrong, and they're helping our enemies. And some of them are traitorous, some of them are cowards. But there is a line here. To quote your old boss, either you're with us or you're against us. I mean, there's a good side here, there is a bad side here. And if my grandfather and all those World War II vets who are already gone heard that we were thinking about appeasing the Russians, that we were quibbling about fighting against the Russians to defend Europe, they would find it unbelievable, unfathomable. So it's a call to our patriotism. It's a call for global unity. And I think it's a great moment, not just for Biden, but for America, to show what we can do and show how we can bring people together and set an example. And right now, unfortunately, we've got to refer to our last example, to the greatest generation from before, because this one is caught in the middle, and they can't. They have to step up now. That's why so many veterans are speaking out. We started American Veterans for Ukraine to show that most veterans in this country, like the ones at Normandy, stand with Ukraine.
Not fit to be president of the United States.
What do you think?
We have two candidates running again for president who are not veterans themselves. And I think that's important, because veterans' issues will be a focus. They'll be a weapon. They'll be a chew toy. And this is a very important political battlefield. The fight for veteran voices, not only as advocates on behalf of the campaigns, but independent voices. 50% of my generation of veterans are independent. These are the folks that are up for grabs in places like Michigan and Arizona. And I think those are the folks that ultimately can be moved by patriotism and by the threat that Donald Trump presents as commander-in-chief, his character. Those issues will resonate with a certain number of voters. You're never going to get to Trump's base. I think they're gone. Don't even waste your time focusing rounds on them. But there's the battle for the middle, and that battle can be not only focused on veterans, but used by veterans to communicate and move those people, especially the ones that care about national security and defense. And I think those are the folks that are movable. I think it's a smart political play, and I think it's smart for Biden to hit first on it. Hillary didn't do that, and Trump had the upper hand because he kept pressing it over and over again. And I think it's a smart move for Biden to do that now.
But there is an isolation in the way that the military takes on the burdens of protecting the country.
Yes, we don't have a draft, right? That's a really important factor in this generation, right? Like, every generation has had a backstop, a social backstop, where they've been called to serve. And this generation is kind of on patriotism light. So it's less than 1/2% that serves in uniform. And I think that video, that's what it's all all
Can we play it again?
That's what it's all about.
Do we have the technology to do that?
I mean, and first of all, we have to find out what that veteran's name is so the country stops calling him the veteran, right? But they get it. They both understand combat, and that's the key. And Zelensky's a leader who gets down on one knee and pays respect like he would to my grandfather or someone else's grandfather.
To Anthony's grandfather.
And they get it, and they understand it's one team, one fight. Just like it was back then, it has to be one team, one fight now against a common enemy. That's what they did on D-Day. That's what we have to do again now. But really, we don't even have to send our boys and girls. All we have to do is write a check, right, to defeat the Russian military, knock out Putin, and save the world. This is the easiest ask for a generation we've ever had in this country. And now is the time to pay it. And if you're not sure, talk to those guys. Talk to the World War II veterans and ask them what's at stake, and ask them why this moment requires courage, leadership, and some kind of sacrifice, and at least a commitment.
You get the last word on this day.
If Trump was in the military and he was found guilty on 34 counts, he'd be out of the military, he'd lose his security clearance, and he can't even vote for himself. And people want to make him commander-in-chief. Think about the commander-in-chief test. That is the most important test in electing a president, and I hope more folks who are on the fence think about that.